shadows.substack.com. And we're here to do a very quick live stream talking about the full, in depth United Empire drama that has been online and even on Reddit, which I don't believe you should take stuff like this to Reddit. And I also think that this is a bad optics look, and this is what I'm going to be looking at. I'm going to be looking at the optics of having this drama out in the open and really what I believe some sensitive behind the scenes not really content, but context. There we go. Some sensitive behind the scenes context that should not be given out on Reddit because if you don't know, Reddit is a really toxic place. The NJPW subreddit, some of them in there are toxic, not everybody, but as a whole, they got that chip on their shoulder as if like their shit don't stink. And then to put that in there or the screenshots of what I have. Oh yeah, it is posted in the NJPW subreddit. But either way, Reddit is such a bubble of in itself that they live in their own little echo chamber. So you can't tell them different. You'll get downvoted. You'll get this. You'll get that. Either way, we're going to be going over a lot of the United Empire drama, which, like I said, it's only for optics, nothing else. Even though in the last live stream that I did take a side, which is Jeff Cobb's side, because now it's more apparent than ever after like reading everything, looking at everything. It's basically, Jeff Cobb. That is not really the problem. There's a lot of things that people could do if you just sit down and talk with them and actually like talk with them and not like try to just be like, okay, well, if you just say you're just kidding, like, no, if that's the go-to kind of defense mechanism, you really got to sit down and be like, yo, what is the real problem here? But then again, I think, again, the whole United Empire thing was mad strong when we had Osprey, Aussie Open, Gideon, everybody else, Hinari in there, even though Hinari is injured, the Great Cobb being there, Akira Francesco being there, TJP being there, and it felt like a really good, wholesome, good unit. And then after Aussie Open left first, and then Osprey left, it's like they didn't give a shit about the United Empire until like I have a conversation about that with one of them. I still think like just because they left, there's no really care there because you would have left with people. You would have left leaving a foundation that would have stood the test of time if they didn't need to be there. Why do you think Bullet Club, every time that they change leaders, they're able to stand on the foundation of what made Bullet Club Bullet Club? Now the United Empire to me is in shambles. So it's like, nobody left a foundation for them to stand on. And this is what we're going to be going over. We're going to be going over some stuff. Even though I have talked about the first half of this drama, I will be talking about it in full. So you might end up hearing me repeat some things, say some things, because sometimes my stance has not really changed on some of the stuff. The only new information that we have is the long essay that is what I believe, again, is very sensitive behind the scenes context that TJP just gives out willingly on the New Japan subreddit because he probably feels that because people were, making up stuff and believing their own narrative and creating a different narrative, it's sort of like, you gotta let them be in their own bubble because they're not gonna know anything different. They're gonna take these words that you give them and they're gonna twist them all. And you don't want that getting to the dirt sheets because then they're gonna make it worse for the United Empire and worse for New Japan Pro Wrestling and worse for management. And now management has to scramble to try to do either some good PR or, move around some stuff, break up the group, really see who's problematic. And even though TJP, is confirmed to be a freelancer, damage done, bridges are burned. Congratulations. You basically made things a little bit worse. And again, this isn't like trying to, I don't want to say throw hate at him because I don't really know him personally. I do appreciate TJP and his wrestling ability, but this burns bridges when we get to it and when I talk about it. It burns bridges so much. Luckily, Jeff Cobb got out of there in due time, and then we found out that Naito and Bushi are leaving, and it's just one of those like, Again, New Japan Pro Wrestling, please wake up. Before I continue to go on this and talk about the drama in full, I do want to mention that yesterday, um, 6 hours of a particular post was posted on the NJPW social media um, account where they accidentally put NXT Dantaku. Because as you know, we're almost into the month of May, and May 4th is not only out there, not only for like Star Wars fans out there, but May 4th is also the Dantaku event. And Dantaku is a very important pay per view for New Japan Pro Wrestling. On the Dantaku event, we're going to be seeing the dog pound cage match that has Bullet Club versus House of Torture. Hopefully, all guys, come out of that, not scarred. And then we have the main event, which is Goto versus Callan Newman for that IWGP Championship title, I believe, because Callum and Great Khan became World Tag Champions, and I'm like, that was so obvious, that was so predictable. But either way, whoever ran the account for the NJPW account put NXT Dantaku for next week. And because we were making a buzz about it and talking about it, I honestly think it was intentional. I honestly think that, this whole entire month was sort of intentional to not only get buzz on New Japan Pro Wrestling, but to maybe, there could be a partnership down the line with NJPW and WWE. Like, there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of things, if you see it on the surface level, and we could see it in real time. And I say that all the time on my podcast and all the previous videos, that we see this happening in real time. So I just wanted to mention that I think it's very, very intentional for that to happen. Very intentional. And then they finally took it down. But screenshots live forever. So we have that, and we could definitely be like, oh, that's a huge tell. I don't think it was autocorrect because even though, yeah, you could train the autocorrect for like certain things on the phone, you don't really get autocorrect that much or that like hyperimposed on if you're like on a laptop or something. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Before I continue to go on any further, I do want to say thank you so much to the members who decided to upgrade from a free tier right here on marieshadows.substack.com to a paid tier. Thank you guys so much. Because it means the world to me. I love obviously talking about wrestling, creating these things. And again, it is only me. I do not have a machine behind me. I do not have like any other big support behind me. It is only me and my content that I get to do these live streams, and I get to edit them, do thumbnails, do everything on my own. So I appreciate you guys for upgrading from free to paid, and I appreciate you guys. If you guys are going to be watching this over on youtube.com/Square Circle Podcast, make sure to hit that like button, make sure to leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel, the Square Circle Podcast on YouTube. You can also upgrade from a free subscriber that would, loves my content to a paid subscriber. We do have memberships over at youtube.com/Square Circle Podcast /join. And we only have two tiers. One tier is the OG tier for $1.99. Those are the ones that have stuck with me since 2019. Or if you are brand new and you have a budget, by all means, get the $1.99 because it's budget friendly. The other one is $9.99, which is a tape study plus. And I do know I have to make more tape study reviews and more like exclusive content. Just give me, be patient with me, only because, like I said, this is only me doing everything, me planning out content, and me working with one laptop when there's two content creators going on and making content creation and stuff like that. So one for gaming, one for wrestling. So yeah, I would just appreciate any kind of patience, and I also appreciate your support, whether that is through a membership or a super chat. If you guys don't know, after a video is posted, you guys can still give super chats to your favorite content creators, and that helps them out greatly. So make sure you're helping out your favorite content creator by sharing, showing some love, sharing it out, and telling the world about their content. Now, let's get into the actual full United Empire drama. Just know that Jeff Cobb has already left New Japan Pro Wrestling. His last match was April, I want to say the 19th or the 14th. Like it was just very, very recent where he had faced Tanahashi for the last match. And then he goes on. And then he goes on Twitter to post this. How do you guys like my board? And by the way, as I pan over to like this side, right, to my right, just trigger warning because we're gonna get into everything, especially what TJP's wife goes off the handle, so trigger warning as you see this. So right over here is the Reddit post. These are all the screenshots for the Twitter stuff, and then that over there you can basically see a little bit of it. So we're going to zoom in on this because this is the first one. Um, this is basically the first one, this one right here. So we're gonna get into it and read it. Jeff Cobb says, when Will Ospreay left, everyone thought we were dead in the water, but we pushed forward. Now I'm leaving, and I know the Empire is in good hands with the Great Khan and the Prince of Pace, Callum Newman, leading the way, Francesco Akira, getting ready to set fire to the junior division, teaching Templario along the way. Super J Cup has to change his name, or he will be under my shadow. And with Hinari eventually returning healthy, I am not worried about them at all, right? So basically, like that's a regular tweet to be like, "Hey guys, I'm out, but support the rest of the members." He doesn't have to mention TJP if he doesn't want to. It's the same way of like if I ever have to do a like, oh hey, support these creators, and if someone gets upset that I didn't mention them, like I don't have to mention people that I don't want to mention. So, that's what I took from here from Jeff Cobb, that he doesn't have to mention TJP if he wasn't really like friends with him. You know what I mean? Like, you know, um, it's just one of those things of like he doesn't have to mention him. He just wants to mention the people that he wants to mention, and that's totally fine. Um, I don't think I have okay. So I don't have the tweet here that him going with laughing emoji or this over here. So basically this one right here is because somebody had replied to Jeff Cobb saying that oh, don't forget about like TJP because he's the captain of the ship. So basically he just laughed, and then I think TJP said that he would, why are you being you know, uh, passive aggressive. Yeah, that TJP didn't understand the passive aggressiveness. So this is the response to that. Surprisingly, I didn't put that on here. But anyway, he said, so FYI, I posted for people um, uh, who are in the group picture, and when Hinari returns, you have publicly and privately stated you are done with New Japan and freelance. So what would you like me to think? Since we are on the topic and your wife wants to air things that are already public knowledge and some that I have only seemed to have mentioned to you, she has a very angry Twitter page where she is bashing me, but oh well, crowns up, laugh out loud. Which you don't really do that. This is why, like, if you're not part of it, like if TJP's wife was part of the NJPW, like if she was working in NJPW, working alongside TJP as his like valet manager to the Aswan character, then yeah, she could say something in the tweets that we're going to talk about in just a little bit over on this side, on the right. But to mention stuff that like you say to someone in confidence, and then that person goes and tells the significant other, I'm like, yeah, maybe that wasn't a good idea. um to which TJP says, I just think it's odd that you have spent a year with these one-sided passive aggressive things towards me. And it's like, are they really passive aggressiveness, or you just don't understand what he's been doing for the year and why you never really sat down to be like, hey, we need to clear the air. You could have been like, hey Jeff, there was this one time at this event on this day, are you okay? Or there were a couple events where it felt like these were passive aggressive actions towards me. Have a conversation like that and bring up specific things to be like, hey, here are some specific stuff that I feel that are passive aggressive, and I need to talk about them with you. That's what an adult would do. But this here is just like, no harm, no foul, in a way of like, like I said, Jeff Cobb can post and tag whoever he wants. He doesn't have to tag TJP, especially when like the whole entire motto of the United Empire ever since Osprey left was there are no leaders. Well, if there are no leaders, he shouldn't be getting upset that he's not tagged in this tweet. Like, now let's go over to Arya. Arya does get out of hand. Um, Arya does get out of hand. Which I don't agree with. Like, trigger warning, I don't agree with that over there of her telling Jeff Cobb to unalive himself. Just because it's like that's not cool. You don't tell people that. You don't do that because sometimes the brain is such a powerful organ in our body that basically like anything could fucking happen. Like anything, man. You just don't do that. You try to find different ways to express the anger that you feel, but it's not even about her. That's the thing. Her anger in like these three tweets it's not even about her, but like, wanted to try to smear Jeff Cobb's name. So here we go. Remember that laughing emoji? Here comes Arya with what's funny. And then Arya with the like there's no relevant storyline or anything that's ever needed this energy, but sure, be a bitch made whatever that is. I don't even know if she was trying to like create a new word or like substitute a different word for it, but that wasn't really needed. And then continuing it with you're a pouty little bitch all the time and approaching 50. By the way, he's in his early 40s. You're a dad. I think that's a personal thing to put out there because he hasn't said anything about it. And if he hasn't said anything about it, you cross the line by, making it personal for no reason. When Jeff Cobb has not even said anything about TJP's kids at all. Like no tweet about it, no nothing. But yet then it's okay for her to be like, "You're dead," and put that out there for the whole entire world. How is this not embarrassing, you greasy haired fuck? Like, it's embarrassing for her to get this upset when it's not about her and she's not in the team and all of that. This is where one of those situations where, like, you got to calm down and you're making your husband look bad, which I do want to address something that in the NJPW subreddit, some people tend to think that just because you get married, you are still individuals. That is not true. It's once you get married, you are a reflection of your spouse, and your spouse is also a reflection of you. Now, if you decide, right, in the beginning days of dating and stuff like that, if you don't make it like 5 years and past, you don't really have to worry about, if your significant other represents you. So if you're just new in the dating world, you don't have to worry about if your significant other is acting a fool if you're not going to be with them for long term. But if you're going to be with them for long term, eventually people are going to be like, oh, they're a couple, they're serious. So whatever happens is a reflection on you, and you may not like that. But that is how society has always like looked at people, judged people, and even when you're with your friends, you're also a reflection of your friends. And sometimes if your friends end up acting a fool, it reflects poorly on you. And you know that phrase of that you only get, one chance to make a really great impression? That's still around in the universe. So yeah, this whole entire angry go off the handle and then delete everything and never give Jeff Cobb an apology is definitely a reflection on TJP, because this should have never happened. She should have never went off the handle, go after Jeff Cobb the way that she did, and then be like, "Oh, I'm not apologizing for anything." So let's keep going. Um, I believe I'm also missing one other tweet here. Saying that he didn't forget he's just a giant bitch made pussy. Jeff is going to WWE. Thank you for confirming that. And by the way, if you're gonna confirm it that easily, that means that um we now know who talks to the dirt sheets. He's been in contact with them for months. Now we know who talks to dirt sheets, which is not helping the industry if you still want to keep it kayfabe. Bruce Pritchard and Jeff had a meeting, and dumbfuck Jeff forgot already meeting Bruce in MOW and hit him with a nice to meet you, and Bruce corrected him. I don't know why that's a thing to tell people, but people all the time forget that they meet somebody or that they're doing too much. Um, but like to just name drop people because you think that it can like smear Jeff Cobb, like what? And then this one in the previous live stream, I was like, this is where it gets a little like weird and wrong. Um, you know, this is a shoot. Nobody likes the blink, little bitch boy attitude, and then still tagging Jeff Cobb. Feels the need to have, maybe it's the SARMs. Do you think the Fed will let you keep buying SARMs from that other guy in the locker room? Now, my problem with this and in the previous video was the fact that she dropped this piece of information, and this piece of information is sort of like I don't want to say a whistleblower in a way, but you definitely gave up like who else is the other guy. She wants to be so angry at Jeff Cobb for no reason, no true reason. She wants to be so angry at Jeff Cobb that she has to go and blow up the other guy's spot if he is selling SARMs. And by the way, if you guys don't know what SARMs is, it is a type of like supplement that I guess men take to keep their muscles and be that big. But then again, Jeff Cobb has always been a big boy, like, from just watching his whole career. So he's been like a big boy, and he trains and he eats. If he's taking that, you know, how would she know? If she's never been behind the scenes or like in the locker room of NJPW or wherever Jeff Cobb gets booked on the indies, how would she know that he takes SARMs? And why would you out like really directly be like, oh, maybe it's that, as if it's like so sure, as like a matter of fact? Even though like she knows stuff because obviously her and TJP talk, but to put that out there, and then if you're so comfortable with getting so upset with Jeff Cobb, who is the other guy? Name drop the other guy, because it's not really fair to be like, Jeff Cobb is bad. I'm angry at Jeff Cobb. Let me say all of these hurtful things and then be like, oh, wait, the other guy that you buy it from, right, in the locker room. Like, if you're going to be spilling all the tea, then why not go all the way? You know? Um, my problem with her is that she ended up blocking me. Not that I care that she ended up blocking me, because I don't even know why. I never interacted with her. But according to like her page or whatnot, she's like very accepting and like empathetic and nice and has friends, and then just turns into an angry person against Jeff Cobb. And it's like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? I'm going to get out of this for a second, because there is one tweet that I have that I am missing that is important to this. And if I don't move my Nintendo Switch, it is going to fall. Because there is one that I am missing. What am I missing? Um, oh, this one. Hold on. This is what the other part was the are you ever happy? The one-sided passive aggressiveness is odd men, especially towards someone who unconditionally looked past it and supported you like a brother. And I said on the other live stream that, like, you could support anybody as a brother. That doesn't mean that they have to give it back. That doesn't mean anything. You guys can have ex- uh, um a mutual expression of, like, oh, brothership and love and all that kind of stuff, but um it's one of those things of, like, um no one has to return it back, if that makes sense. Like, no one has to. They could do it to be nice, but they don't have to. I am missing one. Where is it? No, not that one. It's the one where she basically says that, like, everyone talks shit about him in the group chat. Um, excuse me. That's mad weird that it didn't want to show up. Well, it's on my phone and I can't really do anything about it because I'm live streaming on Substack. Um, but yeah, it's essentially saying that everybody is talking shit about him, and that, he's this and that. He is very, like, passive aggressive and all this kind of shit. I just don't understand why you would put all that out there. I really don't. So the first half of that drama, the optics of it still looks bad because you have one that's going off the handle, and then you have TJP at this time trying to be like, bro, I don't understand this passive aggressiveness. Like, why you didn't tag me, which he should have said. Um, but that, at that point, it should have just died. Meaning that it should have just, happened on the internet and we move on to the next thing. But no, let's get into the Reddit part because there's a lot to go over, and there's a lot to read, and there is, a lot to discuss. Um, hold on, can I not? Also, I can't edit anything. I'm just gonna move stuff around. Um, and I really don't want to keep talking about this, but hopefully this is the end of the drama after we're done reading the Reddit stuff. But hopefully this is the end of the drama because there's no need for this, especially when Jeff Cobb has already left and TJP is already out the door. And I said this in the last live stream, like, rationalizing it, like, why would you do something like this if you know you're on the way out? So again, another thing about, like, the United Empire no longer has a foundation to rebuild upon. They could try to rebuild with the Great Okan and Callum Newman, but Callum is so green that, like, I don't think nobody will follow a leadership of someone being that green in the business. The Great Okan, I would follow the Great Okan here and there, because he was like, Will Osprey's, number one. If anybody out there is a Star Trek fan, you could think of that as, like, his number one because he came in, like, right after Will Osprey, and the Great Okan has, like, some really good moments to, like, be a leader and, like, do this stuff and lead the United Empire and stuff like that. And because he's very, like, well connected and likes networking, the United Empire would definitely get a lot of opportunities and stuff like that. But if you're on the way out and you're a freelancer, as we're going to be discovering more here in more detail as I, like, read what TJP had to say on Reddit. It's one of those things of, like, why would you do this? We know you're leaving. The United Empire has two people leaving, and then what are you gonna do? Man, let's get into this long thing. Um, okay, I'm just gonna leave it like this, and I'm just gonna read it, and then I'm gonna respond to specific things. We are gonna read this whole thing. Again, remember, this is on NJPW Reddit. This is where the screenshot came from. Here is where. Okay, let me start with this, and I quote from TJP. over at Reddit, which we're going to talk about. Here is where the problem is. The company made me the leader because the other members turned it down. I didn't ask for it. I didn't because all of them were asked before me and didn't feel up to doing it, including Cobb. After it fell to me, I asked them all again myself if they'd rather do it out of respect. They all declined. Cobb specifically saying he didn't want to be in the group anyway. So I'm going to stop right there, right? So I can understand Jeff Cobb's frustration because it just seems like nobody knew what to do with the group after Will Ospreay left. Whether or not they asked people to be the leader or not, you could tell in Jeff Cobb's booking that it just felt so odd, so weird. Even though they gave him title opportunities and all this kind of stuff, it's one of those things of like, well, how many times did he have to go through Zack Sabre Jr. in order to get the NJPW TV title, which to me needs to go away, but that's a whole nother conversation. Like, how many times did he have to go through Zack Sabre Jr. to basically get that championship title? Or the fact that during the G1 that Jeff Cobb lost to Konosuke. And Jeff Cobb is a die-hard loyal New Japan Pro wrestler at the time when he was there. Now that he's out, I don't know how much, gravity this has, but just stick with me that like he lost to Konosuke, who just came in to NJPW, and they made Konosuke the big shit during the G1 until he finally lost again to one of the Three Musketeers in the G1. But you let him have a victory over Jeff Cobb? What? Like when I originally what is it? Reviewed the G1, I was basically talking about that and how angry that was because that didn't make sense on a like booking standpoint. And people got upset because people have this thing of like attaching themselves to their favorite wrestler and their favorite wrestler cannot lose. But nobody since can tell me what makes Konosuke very, very special in the world of wrestling when all he does is power moves, no sell, absorb this, absorb that, and like heavy hitting stuff. There's no what is it? There's no rhyme or reason to what Konosuke does. And if you're wondering who Konosuke is Takeska. See, this is why I don't say his first name because I know I'm going to mess it up. But if people are listening rather than like, watching the video, when this goes up on the multiple platforms where you can find the Square Circle podcast, just think of take a shit. Take a shita. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But if you guys are wondering, like, who the hell is Konosuke? Because I say Konosuke because I could pronounce it better, and that's like a better thing for me. But nobody has yet to tell me like what is so special about Konosuke. So, if Jeff Cobb wanted out of the group, it's because he was getting frustrated with the booking. He was getting frustrated with the lack of story that was happening, and he was the only one trying to make story, even if like it was a stupid way of how to make a story, but he's trying to make a story. He's trying to be creative, but nobody wanted to join in on being creative with him or even sitting down and being like, "Hey, where are we going with this?" So let me continue here. Um Head of booking even sat with United Empire members down and told us exactly that they're putting me in that position. It was very clear and not self-appointed. I mean, it felt like it was self-appointed for a while, dude. Even when Will Ospreay was like, on his way out, it felt self-appointed. Those backstage comments and the backstage interactions felt very, very self-appointed. So I don't know about that. Cobb is a longtime friend, so I offered to do what I can to make it something he enjoys because he was at the time disgruntled about a lot of things and not being clear why. It was obvious why he was being disgruntled. He lost against Konosuke in the G1. He had to face Zack Sabre Jr. multiple times for the NJPW World TV title. Whenever it comes to capturing the World Tag Team titles in New Japan Pro Wrestling, he somehow has to give it up and relinquish it. And I'm not talking about this recent one. I'm talking about the other ones. You know, while Jeff Cobb gets opportunities, it doesn't do well for his character and what is meant for him. So it was there, man. The writing on the wall is there. Sometimes like TJP don't pay attention, like it's there. Um, okay, so he goes on to say he began creating a storyline that didn't exist about a question of leadership. But how many times in those backstage promos you had to keep saying that you're the captain of this ship, or say in the same breath that there are no leaders? And sometimes you need a leader in order to progress, in order to maneuver stuff. Remember, you got to play checkers. Oh no. Oh my God. Why did I say that? No, if you're playing checkers, you're losing. Okay. I'm so sorry, man. I can't edit this shit right now like that. You have to play chess, not checkers. So somebody needed to like really step up and like, sometimes creating this kind of storyline where you question the leadership can have people um go along with it to the point of saying, okay, he earned it. He can be the so-called leader. Even though there's no leaders in the United Empire, which I fucking hate that thing. I really did. If there's no leaders, then why the hell did you guys want a beneficiary in the name of Gideon, where Gideon's role is to be the manager, and apparently he had all the money in the world, and he's paying the United Empire members so much money that he's the one that brought them all together because of United Empire. I don't even remember the damn story of why he brought them all together, other than money. And that I know that he's friends with the Great Okan and stuff. But like, why would you, want to bring in Gideon if you didn't want like, leadership or like try to create some kayfabe? Uh, let's keep going. That's why most of us never acknowledged it, because there was no booking plans to pay it off so we would look foolish. Sometimes you just gotta go with it. He would also drift behind the entrances and try to appear as if in the leadership spot. Well, I would rather be like, "Yo, Jeff, what are we doing? What do you got planned? Where we're going?" Because he's actually doing something. It's called being creative in wrestling, not just being a wrestler. Um, uh, but when confronting him, he will put on a good face and say he's just doing whatever and just kidding around. Eventually, myself and Osprey had to suggest a short story that was never meant to happen, where we have a gauntlet with just 5 guys. It is now just 4 guys. With me beating Taichi, so solidified that in leading the group, and we all come together in that moment. That's a stupid idea, and I don't remember that happening, which I don't even think it happened, or maybe it did happen. But if someone could tell me down in the comments, if it did happen, let me know, because I don't remember it. But why would you need to try to solidify your leadership to the United Empire by going against just 5 guys and having a gauntlet match and defeating Tai Chi? Jeff Cobb over here is trying to create story, even though like it's not the traditional way of how to create story, but he's trying to be creative, and nobody wants to go along with it, which is like very, 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 very sad. Um, but I think that idea it wasn't helpful. You don't go against another team to try to solidify TJP as the leader. That doesn't make sense. You have to solidify TJP as the leader within the group by doing the storyline that Jeff Cobb wanted to do, by questioning the leadership. So that way, if it ever came down to Jeff Cobb versus TJP, and if Jeff Cobb loses to TJP, then that becomes the solidified process that this is the leader. Like, we're not questioning him anymore because of that. Like, this is how you know that like not all wrestlers are creative, or they don't get it, because you could wrestle 1,000 matches, but no one is going to really remember it until you like get them emotionally attached, take them on a roller coaster, do some cinema, as we say for like WWE and stuff, and have people remember stuff. Jeff Cobb is trying to do something here to like solidify it, because nobody online and even, in Japan was even like behind TJP being the leader and the captain. Like, we didn't believe it. So Jeff Cobb was trying to make it believable, but nothing happens, the way that it should happen. Okay, so we're gonna keep going. All because the sabotaging was becoming a commentary point. They don't get notes from the office the same way WWE AEW does, and the fans were starting to get confused. See, that right there is a little too much sensitive information where I'm like, yo, you're burning bridges at this point. You could have just been like, it was becoming a commentary point and people were getting confused. Um, which, by the way, I just said that like, it's because of the demeanor and the backstage comments of TJP, toying around with the idea of like, I'm the captain, I'm the captain, I'm the captain, and blah blah blah, and like, and then also saying in the same breath that there are no leaders of the United Empire. So what do you want people to think? We did it and it worked. So yeah, again, somebody in the comments below, if you're watching this on YouTube or like anywhere else, let me know like when and where did Just Five Guys versus United Empire happen, please. But he kept on playing into his own made up angle, so we just ignored him at that point, which was kind of wrong on your part. But the perception was causing the group to be devalued, in booking and merch was tanking from a previously high position even after Will had left. I don't know about that. I don't know why you're blaming him for stuff that could have been easily avoided. And that's not on Jeff's part. A lot of things change. Fans change, perceptions change. The new hot thing in town is Bullet Club War Dogs with Clark Connors, Drilla Maloney, Gabe Kidd, who's a loose cannon right now, and David Finley and Gato. So it had nothing to do with Jeff Cobb at this point for declining stuff. It really doesn't. That doesn't make any sense. Most of the group is on per day agreements. So if booking diminishes, we make significantly less money. Cobb is the only one on guarantee money, whether he works or not. Um, that is super sensitive to release. Very super sensitive. And now we know again who talks to the dirt sheets. And like, this is why the dirt sheets will always be around in this loop, is because people talk to the dirt sheets, people get information like this, and this is how the never ending tribalism and war and like all this kind of stuff online is never going to go away, because of sensitive information like that. And plus, anyway, why are you blaming Jeff Cobb for his antics about getting less bookings? If you are on a pay per date agreement, then you gotta either negotiate or talk to management or try to be like, hey, I could do this and this. I can get this many people. I can help sell tickets. I could do something. Like, you gotta hustle too, man, to get your guaranteed contract. But Jeff Cobb has been there longer than TJP and like some of the other guys that come in and out. So sometimes even management could look at certain wrestlers and be like, oh yeah, we don't see anything long term, but we like you here, the fans like you here, so we're gonna do pay per appearance, because they can tell what kind of wrestler you are, what kind of person you are. Jeff Cobb has been freaking loyal, to be there. That's why he has a guaranteed money. Or he just what do you call it? Uh he just negotiated very, very well to get a guaranteed contract. And if you're not negotiating to get a guaranteed contract, then I don't know what you're doing. You're wasting time, because you shouldn't, when it comes to something like New Japan Pro Wrestling or like um yeah, when it comes to like New Japan Pro Wrestling, you shouldn't try to be like, all right, I'll do pay per date. You should try to convince them to do a guaranteed contract. If you really, 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 really want to be there and not have the indie mentality. If you have the indie mentality, then like, doing some shows for AEW to get a paycheck is good. Doing some shows for like MOW to get a paycheck is also good too. Doing limited dates for TNA is good. Like you got to learn the art of like negotiating what you want to do, what you can see doing. Because if you have other things, then yeah, you should, um, try to pick and choose what kind of contract you want to have. But to say that all of Jeff Cobb's antics falls on the booking diminishes is it's wrong to just put it all on him. It depends on like the wrestler, what management sees in the wrestler, and obviously management saw long term return on investment on Jeff Cobb, but then Jeff Cobb got a little like disgruntled and frustrated with his booking, so he decided to go. But they didn't see that same value in TJP, and that raises a lot of questions. You know, let's continue. Um, he also began having little locker room spats or criticism with other group members when, even when I wasn't there, left a group chat we have to collaborate together on gear and merch and just to hang out when traveling. And also created an issue with management where they questioned the group members if they got along with me. They all confirmed they did, and it was easy to see where it came from because Cobb was the only one they didn't ask. I'm surprised by now no one else from the group has either said, yes, this is true, no, this is not true, this is how it actually happened. Because again, like, um we don't know. We're taking this at face value. I'm reading this and giving feedback on this because it is a lot. Um but why would he only have locker room spats or criticism with the other group members when TJP wasn't there? Like, is TJP like the big authority person that like will be like laying down the law and be like, yo, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't say this, like, um like I don't know, man. I don't know. Just something there just about like I don't I don't really believe all that. And he left the group chat because he probably didn't want to be in there. It's for gear, merch, and just to hang out when traveling. I mean, you have his number. Just text him personally. Be like, bro, you want to come get ramen or something? Um, just a lot of passive aggressive, but detrimental behavior from whatever he was going through and not being upfront about it. Well, again, if it bothered you, you could have been upfront with him. I even offered him to lean into his rogue story if he felt like it would be interesting, even though it makes me look stupid. Again, TJP was the one that started with I'm the captain, and in the same breath, in different backstage interviews after matches, would say that the United Empire has no leader. And I'm guessing Cobb didn't like that because eventually you need a leader to push this group in a direction to where they could get back on track. Um, but that's my job in the locker room in general to make things work. Again, he took on a role that he really didn't need if there are no leaders in the locker room. However, the office did not want us to go that route. They just wanted us to be a group and me be in this position, which is very bad. This is where you have to tell management it's not going to work. Uh, However, the office did not want us to go that route. Okay, I'm sorry. Um, no push, no bells and whistles or big titles to signify it. Just do it naturally as is. And this is why the United Empire is falling apart. This is why they're getting diminishing in bookings because you sometimes you do need those titles to signify things. You do need those titles and those pushes to tell the audience like invest in the United Empire. That's why it worked in the beginning because everybody was invested into the United Empire. The United Empire meant something to me. Okay, like you brought like everybody that was brought into United Empire was very very special. It was a tight unit. And I have a special place for them in my heart. But after all of this, it's like, yeah, the United Empire needs to be done. Like you can't just allow management to be like, oh yeah, guys, we're not gonna give you pushes, we're not gonna give you titles, we're not gonna give you any of that stuff. Um which by now it's kind of like, not true because we got IWGP World Tag Team Champions and a NJPW TV champion in that group. But either way, like, you know, you need something to solidify it. If you're just going to go with like nothing, then what's the point? You know, you get into professional wrestling to not only tell stories and build character and, give us entertainment, you're also there to win championships and be like, well, I'm the big dog here now, so who's gonna take my championship title? That was stupid on TJP's part, and that's how you know he's not a leader. Because if you just allow management to be like, oh yeah, we're not gonna give you a push, guys, we're not gonna give you a championship opportunity, then that should have told him right there and then that like it wasn't Jeff Cobb, because Jeff would have probably like negotiated something and be like, oh, this would be good for this would be good for that, we should put the belt on this, how does this work, and stuff like that. So all we did was follow directions except for one guy, obviously. And for me, that made life hard. No, you made life hard. Do not put that on Jeff Cobb. This is TJP. TJP has a wife and 2 kids. Money got cut in half and was no longer a livable wage. Not because of Jeff Cobb, because you allowed management to you into a pushover by saying no bells and whistles titles to signify it. Just that's not Jeff Cobb's fault. That is your fault for being like, yes, management. Oh, okay, management. Yes, management. We will do this. There are no complaints. I don't want a title. It's not Jeff's fault. Like, you have to also negotiate on behalf of the United Empire since you were put into the position of being leader, but you didn't negotiate nothing on the behalf of the Empire. But then you also decided to become freelance, so you really didn't care. And the trajectory of how I was being used at first versus Finley twice versus Taichi twice versus Kojima was now being changed, and I was told they couldn't continue that because of where we are at now. Which, by the way, New Japan Pro Wrestling is falling apart every single day. I feel like it's every single day. They're falling apart. So, they're changing a lot of things around. They're going on as business as usual, and a lot of the guys are frustrated. He continues to go on and say, so because of that, I chose to decline my contract simply to allow myself the freedom to make enough money to feed my wife and kids. Which, by the way, that is and to me, that is an error, because if you know that you have 2 kids to feed and to clothe and to take care of, you shouldn't have not done that. There should have been a negotiation where you could get a guaranteed contract and have money every single time, and then start investing so you could get passive income. And when you get passive income, then you can make the choice of like, hey, I really don't need a guaranteed contract anymore, New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm going to be looking to be a freelancer. But, no wrestler thinks like that. No wrestler thinks to do passive income tactics with their money in a very legal way. So that way they can have a safety net and they can have money saved up. And when situations like this arise, they could be like, oh, okay, thank you for everything, New Japan Pro Wrestling, but I want to renegotiate my contract. I think I should be a freelancer for now. I'll be okay. I want to look elsewhere. Now, the next part that we get into, I have heard this story before from TJP. He just changed it because he is married now and he has 2 kids. And that is when I realized that TJP was the problem. As much as I praised him on my Twitter timeline, and I got to see him work MOW the 2 times that he came to the MOW show, once in Philly and then once in New York over here at the Melrose Ballroom. By the way, a little cheeky plug, MOW returns live to NYC at the Melrose Ballroom on June 26th for Summer of the Beast. I will be there, and I hope to see you guys if you guys ever go. Yeah, June 26th, Summer of the Beast, MOW. Get your tickets. soon because it does sell out. MLW has been selling out. And even though I praise TJP for being a really damn good wrestler, I have heard this story so many times. He tells this story to young and upcoming wrestlers who like have girlfriends or maybe not have girlfriends, but I've heard this before. So, excuse me if I don't give any kind of empathy or sympathy or any kind of slack towards this because like I said, no one that decided to start a family should be trying to make less money and try to gamble on getting enough bookings to basically like take care of their family when he makes it seem as if like they have to rely on his one income and Arya can't do something on the side to make a little bit extra money. I mean, she used to have like an OnlyFans or something like that. But then that got turned off. And then I don't know, they're making cards, like an underground card thing. Again, when you just stay on Twitter and scroll and go through rabbit holes and you're reading up on what people do with their lives, like this is where the information is coming from by me going down a rabbit hole in on Twitter. So I'm not really saying anything like out of pocket, but like to make it seem as if like this story that I'm about to read to you is all because of Jeff Cobb's fault. Like, no, it's not. So here we go. And let me know if you heard this before because he said this before. So because of that, I chose to decline my contract simply to allow myself the freedom to make enough money to feed my wife and kids. You don't understand the position of being on the phone with a distraught significant other at 4 a.m. in the dark in a Japanese hotel room because they're raising two kids in their own while you're shipped overseas to work for a month to make ends meet and then find out you're about to have tours taken off the schedule because of peer sabotaging, not peer sabotaging. I'm sorry to cut in on the fake little regurgitated story that he's telling, but not peer sabotaging. And now you won't be able to make ends meet after all. The worst feeling in the world is pouring your last cup of milk into two baby bottles and having to fill the empty spaces with water just to make sure they have something before borrowing money the next day. So you're telling me that you cannot ask friends and family to help you out with groceries for milk. You're asking me that you can't try to find some type of way to make something on the side to bring in a little extra cash or even, ask for government assistance, which should not be a stigma. But there are always countless ways to make extra money other than trying to rely on professional wrestling. If the professional wrestling is not guaranteed and you're still doing the indie mentality of like I have to get enough bookings to get enough money, you're not working smart, you're working harder, and then you're gonna regurgitate this story to everybody, but instead of being in a Japanese hotel, it's going to be, oh, when you're in a US hotel room and your significant other is crying and lashing out and there's no milk at home and stuff. Like, priorities. If someone is going to be working overseas, the other one could be doing something over here where it includes, social media is at our fingertips. Going live is at our fingertips. People will give tips if you need to, like, give tips if you want to. People can surprise you. You never know. But there is a right and wrong way to do it. But the point still stands of like, why is this story being regurgitated? And then because I read that the first time, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely not taking this, you know, I'm taking this with a super little grain of salt because like I said, I heard that story before that he told. And I'm like, why are you going to use it again to try to get sympathy, to try to get empathy, just because you got two kids and you're milking it, all puns intended, but you decided to decline your contract rather than being like, hey, I need to renegotiate because I have a family to take care of. This is what I can do. And, let me prove to you guys in New Japan Pro Wrestling that I could be a good return on investment. But, you know, all of this is his own actions and antics. It's not even Jeff Cobb's fault. There is no issue here. Rather than like actually getting to the heart of the problem, it's become one of these like he said, she said, this is how I remember it kind of deal for it. But yeah, I just don't like the fact that he had to go and repeat that same story that he tells everybody else. Oh, you don't want to, argue with your girlfriend at like 4 in the morning because they're upset because you have to spend a month over at in Japan and stuff. Um, it's just one of those things of like, man, we come full circle. Okay, so this is the last little bit of it. So this is somebody responding to TJP that says, very interesting. Thanks, mate. I love getting a rare insight on NJPW's inner workings. I do too, but this burns bridges and this is very sensitive information that TJP should know better. Excuse me. Okan turned it down too. He was kind of everybody's pick. Seems like an odd choice to turn it down, but my impression of him is that as a founding member, he's always been passionate about the idea of United Empire being equals and not having a leader, which is true. And then like TJP just had to keep, mentioning that. The claim the guy replied to above you is spreading all over this thread about you going into business for yourself or whatever was just completely unbelievable to me. No, I don't even know what the other guy said above this one, but it kind of feels like towards the end that he went into business for himself to not renew his contract, to not try to negotiate, to try to take more bookings and be a freelancer. So that means he has one foot out the door and of New Japan Pro Wrestling and the United Empire. So if the United Empire goes down in flames, he's gonna be like, oh well, I was freelance. So that gives him a way out, which is kind of sad and upsetting and almost like a coward like thing to do, and then use the story of like my kids, the last drop of milk, and oh my god, is Jeff Cobb's fault in a way. The commenter goes on to say, like, I remember Okan yelling at you and Akira after a failed title challenge at Soccer Genesis, and that whole story accumulated in, as you said, the United Empire versus Just Five Guys Gauntlet. Oh, that's where it's at. Yeah, I skipped that. Yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, I skipped that one. New Japan themselves clearly had your troubled leadership as an intentional story at the time, even if the origins of why that story came about is more interesting. So it's nice to have you chip in your two senses. No, it's not. Nobody needs to know this. For what it's worth, I thought you had a hell of a 2024. Lots of Western fans are dismissive of you due to out of the ring stuff, but I heard those crowd reactions in Japan. You had a good thing going, so I'm sad it's apparently been cut short. I really would like, I really would have liked to see you mix it up in the G1. Oh, don't ask him about the G1. The same way that he responds about the best of the Super Juniors, where he's like, oh, he'll never do that again. you know. So this is the last thing. We all thought United Empire really is an Okan symbol, and I thought he should do it for no other reason that he simply speaks the language, and none of us do. Which I'll give him that. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And he's a wonderful networker. I'll give him that too. But he didn't feel up to it, and I tried to talk him into it when it fell to me and asked him to speak as an equal because of his value in that regard. Okan actually is the one who came up with Captain for me out of respect for Will as the original. We wanted to still acknowledge him as a founding member, and I suggested picking a new term so it doesn't impose on whatever Cobb was feeling about. Office suggested boss and other terms that seemed too harsh in my opinion. Okan first choose a word that didn't translate well, like organizer or something. Then he mentioned captain. So we went with that. It fit as something not too serious, and also as a group, we all decided to focus on more darker colors and kind of a raider pirate sort of theme to drift from the royal theme we had at our height, which was a bad idea. Why would you go from something that was badass and cool to a raider pirate sort of kind of theme when you guys are not that kind of storytelling wrestlers? You guys are the United Empire for a reason. You guys bring together different wrestlers from all over the world with different ethnic backgrounds. Like, why would you want to put Hinare in a Raider pirate sort of theme kind of gear when Hinare is a Maori wrestler, like native to New Zealand? Like, how would a Raider pirate thing look on him? Is he gonna go R? Like, come on, dude. Like, this part here was like, why are we doing a Raider pirate theme? Why are we doing that? Like, it makes no sense. You guys are the United Empire. You guys are from royalty. So go with the royal, like, theme and color, and go with the royal kind of storytelling ability. But no, a Raider pirate. So how does that work with the Aswang? When the Aswang is a mythical creature in a Philippine culture, like, does that eventually become a pirate kind of theme? Like, come on. Like, I didn't understand that. The shift in tone to match the defeat we had and the upward rebuild. That doesn't mean you go for a raider pirate theme. When great empires fall, they're not like, I should be a pirate and I should go pillage anybody else. No, man, like, when empires fall, they fall. And then they rebuild somewhere else, but no one's gonna be like, I want to be a pirate on the way back. Like, we were in the exile, so to speak. Not really. The darker merch actually sold better than any other stuff prior, but unfortunately, again, we had one guy that refused to participate or focus with us on creating a more serious tone for the group. When you want to create a raider pirate kind of theme, that's not really, a serious tone. You guys can't be serious because nobody was going to be a leader. Nobody was going to be a leader, and no one told us to TJP. No one challenged him to be like, bro, just because we got a darker outfits and darker merchandise and we did a darker green, it doesn't really mean that we're serious. You could still be serious in the royal colors, you know. Everybody needed to rebuild a united empire. Just keep the same colors, but change the message. Actually be a leader, be a captain. And the way that the poster above when talking to TJP was like, oh yeah, when the great Okan, like, yelled at you and Akira because you guys lost this and blah blah blah, that was more like, oh, it's getting serious now, like they can't keep losing, so you got to get them motivated. And, like, sometimes yelling at people get people motivated. But just because one guy didn't want to participate, like, nobody was on the same wavelength. Everybody just did as they were told. And this is why the United Empire is the way that it is. Why are you going with, let's do what we're told, rather than we got to talk about it as a group? Nothing in these two new information screenshots tells me that a conversation was had. I should say no conversation was had, just in case the people get, kind of confused. These two things don't tell me that a conversation was had about this. It's just like, oh, because he said so, kind of deal. This is how it comes off as, because he said so. Um, Instead, he focused on making up a story we couldn't tell that undid everything the rest of the group was working towards while we were in a cool down year booking wise. He really didn't try to do undid everything that you guys were doing. He was like, we got to create a different story in order to be serious, you know? Um, Please use the last two responses as reference points for others in the space that don't know this stuff and are wildly incorrect in their think pieces. It would be appreciated if people understood these things. Context is important. Okay, there you have it. The whole entire United Empire drama, um, except for that one tweet where Arya is like, people talk shit about you, Jeff Cobb, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. My final thoughts on this, because this should be the end of it. We should not have to create another video or a live stream talking about this. But it just seems like everybody is frustrated. Everybody in New Japan is frustrated. Nobody wants to sit down and have a conversation about it, whether that is a, like, what is it? Not really a language barrier, but more like an ideology barrier when it comes to what professional wrestling means and what sports entertainment means and stuff like that. To reveal this much of the sensitive information, like this is very sensitive information, you're burning bridges. And to already have this in mind of, like, you're on your way out, so let me burn the bridge, is really, really bad, because then New Japan is like, I can't count on this guy. I can't count on this guy to not say anything. And then dirt sheets, like I said, are going to get a hold of this. They're going to twist it. They're going to take it so out of context, and it's going to really be hurtful towards everybody involved in New Japan Pro Wrestling and involved in the United Empire. And then what? You know, if TJP's wife has yet to apologize to Jeff Cobb, what are the chances of TJP apologizing to the whole United Empire and really, like, hurting them? But TJP is still going to be there for a couple more dates. Um, I don't think he's on the Best of the Super Juniors tour, but he's going to be there for a couple more dates. Him and Templario are going to team up to take on Royce Isaacs and Nelson. That's his tag team partner. The two tag team guys that has been holding the NJPW Strong tag team titles for the damn longest, and they need to be showcased a lot more in New Japan Pro Wrestling. But for some reason, like, New Japan, get your shit together. Um, but after that, I don't know what he's going to be doing, but he's a freelancer. So, like I said, one foot out the door, one foot in the door. If anything happens to the United Empire, if it comes crumbling down, he'll just say, "Oh, that wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault." There's no, like, a little bit of accountability, a little bit of, like, reflection of, like, yeah, maybe if we did this or that or this or that or anything like that, anything different. There's nothing about that. It's about, like, oh, let's all blame Jeff Cobb because Jeff Cobb didn't get with the program, and Jeff Cobb did this, and Jeff Cobb did that, and Jeff Cobb is creating his own narrative and his own story and his own creative, because at least somebody is creative on the United Empire front. So, go along with it. Follow him for a change, rather than being like, oh, because they put me in charge, you got to follow me, guys. You can't follow anybody else. We're gonna just ignore him. Like, what is that? That's not friendship. That's not, being a team player, to just ignore somebody because you're not understanding what they're doing, rather than being like, hey, I could see that this could be a creative thing. Like, what are you doing? What kind of plans do you have? Even if it doesn't pay off, like, what? Not every story needs a huge payoff where, like, you're gonna take it all the way to, like, the Tokyo Dome. Like, not every huge feud needs a huge payoff, even a little bit of a payoff, to understand what to do next, to understand where to go in the story, to understand, like, what to do next. But again, you don't need a huge payoff. Like, you don't. If you think about, like, only doing the huge payoffs in professional wrestling, you're gonna miss all the awesome little moments along the way, and that shouldn't be a thing. But yeah, my whole thing is that, like, once TJP said, regurgitated that same Japanese story about, like, talking to your girlfriend or your significant other at 4 a.m. in the morning and you're yelling, I was like, yeah, definitely not. Definitely take this all with a grain of salt, especially the story of in the NJPW subreddit that I just read to you guys. Take it with a grain of salt, because nobody should regurgitating that story and just changing to fit modern life, to fit what he's doing now. That is a tell, and that's like a kind of deal. Also, like I said earlier in the live stream, that NJPW's account had their Twitter account had the marketing for Dantaku, but put NXT Dantaku. So who knows? Um, Other than that, in the world of wrestling, especially on the Japanese side, on all that kind of stuff, Mayu Iwatani lost the IWGP Women's World Heavyweight Championship title. I forgot who beat her. I think it's I'm gonna mess up her name, so I better not say it. Just know that like if I don't know how to pronounce Japanese names without like looking in front of me to like try to pronounce it, most of the time I won't say their names. But you can easily like find it on online. I just do it out of respect because I don't want to mess up their name. The same way that like if I don't know how to say like a Spanish name or some other kind of name, I'll just be very very respectful and be like either teach me or I'll describe them to you and stuff like that. But I just, very respectful. I don't want to mess up her name because it's really really Japanese. Um, Other than that, just be aware. Watch everything in real time. It's totally okay. The haters still think that like I don't know what I'm talking about when I talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling, the downward spiral. And again, we're just coasting on by. New Japan Pro Wrestling is coasting on by, and with all the fans that keep saying, "Oh my God, this is great! Oh my God, this is so awesome! Oh my God, New Japan, yay!" You guys are not helping New Japan Pro Wrestling to get back to the standard that they need to get back to before the AEW partnership, because the decline in creativity has no soul. The decline in the booking has no soul. And what other wrestling company out there has no soul with their characters and their booking? All Elite Wrestling. Yep. I don't care if people don't like me for it. You could leave a comment saying you don't like me for it. You could curse me out if you want to. It's totally okay. I'm so used to it. But, there is no soul coming from New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I really do hope that sometime later this year or into next year that The Rock is like, hey, we have a partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling because we're going to be celebrating if that ever comes to light fruition. If I dream about it, if I talk about it, if I manifest it, maybe it can happen because New Japan Pro Wrestling needs it, and they need to wake up before they basically how can I say this? The only way that New Japan goes under is if New Japan doesn't really like care or really realize what's happening. So New Japan will be the ones to do it themselves. Versus like no, there is no versus. Either way. I have been talking for a very, very long time. I have been filling you guys in on the full United Empire drama for now. Hopefully it's for now. Hopefully this like just stays like this. But I still think that optics wise, TJP did not help himself, and TJP's wife did not help herself either, and even the image that both of these two have. Because if she's just gonna fly off the handle with like anybody else, and TJP is just going to spill the beans to try to correct other people for like think pieces when you just leave them alone, and you can correct all that when you finally do a tell-all book or a tell-all podcast, which would be better, to air it all out. Companies are going to start looking at you funny. People who book you are going to start looking at you funny because like everything stays on the internet and people cover that kind of stuff. So optic wise, they burn a lot of bridges. I do not suggest any of this. I do not suggest if you are a wrestler to do this on the daily, even though you guys shouldn't do on the daily, but you know what I mean. Um, I do think that like if wrestlers need to clap back at certain fans for stepping on a line, then yeah, but don't take it too far. But every case and situation is a case by case dealings, situation by situation dealings. But something like this with the United Empire drama to air out all this dirty laundry should have never happened online. Just because Jeff Cobb was like, saying goodbye and just tagging a couple people and talking about the United Empire and didn't mention one person, you should have kept it scrolling. You should have kept it moving. Like, obviously, he didn't you want to mention you. So why go into this whole thing of airing dirty laundry if you knew that you're on your way out too? Again, that's a very like coward thing to do. That's a very like, you know, childish thing to do. Of like Jeff Cobb is leaving to WWE. His leaving date got pushed up, and he's gonna go, and then all this drama starts, and it's like, the easiest thing they could have done was just be happy for Jeff Cobb and just not air out this laundry for no reason when these guys are not even gonna be in New Japan as much. Like I said, Jeff Cobb is already on his way, and TJP has one foot out the door. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you gain some knowledge from this. You guys can leave a comment if you want to. Just a quick reminder, you guys can always upgrade from a free to a paid subscription right here on marieshadows.substack.com. I have merchandise available. Merchandise can be clicked on and bought through Fourth Wall. If you are watching this on youtube.com/Square Circle Podcast, you can purchase the merchandise there. And you could also get a membership over there as well for exclusive videos. YouTube.com/Square Circle Podcast/join. There are two tiers, a $1.99 tier and a $9.99 tier over on YouTube. They are both wallet friendly, and over here on marieshadows.substack.com, they are wallet friendly as well. And all of my merchandise is wallet friendly, from like $20 to like maybe $30 for like the hoodies, and like $7 and change for the buttons and the stickers. So whatever you like, it's all there. It's all made for fans by fans. And again, thank you for being here watching this live stream and joining me. I just want to do this very, very quickly on here instead of like anywhere else. But I appreciate you guys. Tell a friend, share it out, and I'll see you guys on the next one.